Don't buy it. Don't buy it. Welcome back to another video. This is my review of the iPhone 16 Pro. I've been using it since it came out, and yeah, I have some thoughts. And that answer to the question that I just gave, it's a bit more nuanced than just don't buy it, but you can extrapolate a lot from that in this review. Okay, so let's get right into it. This device is really in its Porsche 911 era. It is mostly not changing in design. It's evolutionary versus revolutionary. And really all the tweaks are minor to just improve the already great experience. Now, not all of it is great, and we'll get to that. But first, let's just talk about that design aspect. So this device looks pretty much identical to last year's iPhone 15 Pros and 15 Pro Max, with the exception that now you have the camera control button. And so it's funny that it's actually in pretty much the same place that the 5G antenna was when 5G was added to the iPhone. So kind of interesting. Maybe they were trying to harken back to that, but in any case, it's in that same spot. A little bit awkward when trying to use the device one-handed, but I have found it to be very useful. We'll get to that in a minute. But overall, the design still looks great. Very industrial, very functional design, and it does feel really good in the hand. I did downsize to the Pro-sized device. I kind of do this every other year. One year I'll try the Pro Max, and the next year I'll try the Pro. So this time it's the time for the Pro. And well, I think it's just the perfect size. I don't know why I keep thinking that I need the Pro Max when this is actually perfect. It doesn't fall out of my shorts when I'm at the gym. It's much easier to put into cup holders and little wireless charging spots in different cars and things like that. So I think this device at this size is great, especially because now the screen to body ratio is better. So you're getting larger screens, especially noticeable on the Pro Max, where it's now a 6.9-inch Super Retina XDR display with ProMotion. So they do have variable refresh rates going all the way down to 1 Hertz, but largely not that different in size. So don't worry if you were worried that the iPhones were getting too big. They're pretty much the same size, but the bezels are slimmer, and you still have that dynamic island with all the features that come with it. And the regular 16 models do also have dynamic island and camera control. That is actually where I think the better design decisions were made. More vibrant colors, a different design, whereas these are looking more like a 6S, 7S, 5S variant instead of a 5, 6, or 7, where those used to be the kind of off years where they would make incremental updates, and then on the main number years you would have the big redesigns, right? We're not really seeing large redesigns anymore. It seems like every year is kind of an S year now. But that's it about the design. I think it's great. It looks fantastic. I got the regular natural titanium color. There's also desert titanium. In person, it does look a little bit more pink. I was gonna get that one because I like to get the special color that's available for each year, but that one was just, I don't know, I wasn't feeling it. I thought it was going to be more of like a gold, rose gold kind of thing, but it was very muted and looked more white in most cases anyway. So natural titanium it is. The blue from last year was definitely the best one of all time, but it did scratch quite a bit, even just through me not using a case, but normal use. So in terms of design, that's all I'll say. It looks great, doesn't get as hot, but talking about not getting as hot, let's get to the performance and the specs. So this has the A18 Pro processor, and this allows for Apple Intelligence, much like the A17 that was in last year's devices. Well, Pro variant, so to speak, because the regular iPhone 15 does not get Apple Intelligence. But a very nice update to this device is that we are no longer getting that overheating. Last year's phone, up until really I got this phone, was overheating quite a bit. And so really getting that, and really fixing that was a priority for them, I think, in this generation of chip. And I've noticed it. This device does not get as hot. It does not overheat as much. The only time I'm ever seeing the processor really kick into high gear and struggle with temperature control is when using Apple Intelligence, but we're going to get to that a little bit later. In terms of other specs, battery sizes, very similar. RAM should be around 8 gigabytes of RAM, but they don't disclose that online. Otherwise, the only other spec differences come in the cameras. So let's talk about the cameras. The cameras, they look fantastic, but the main changes this year kind of come in a similar fashion to previous phones, where the Pro Max would get a new feature, which would then trickle down to the Pro in the next year. And we're seeing that again. Now we have the 5x optical zoom lens on the Pro model, not only reserved for the Pro Max. So now they have equal camera technology in both devices. A nice welcome update as well is a 48 megapixel ultra wide camera. So as you can see here, you can get some great night shots now as well with that bigger sensor and that extra resolution, leading to better shots during the day as well. So getting an update to the ultra wide was much needed because it did really struggle in those low light conditions. And now having a really great rounded out set of cameras, the iPhone is without a doubt the best camera setup in any smartphone out at the moment, which wasn't always the case. I mean, the Pixels for a long time had the best camera for taking pictures, but maybe not video, where the iPhone was better at video and not so much at the pictures in that time. Now it's really hit its stride, and the iPhone is truly the best all around, especially if you notice when I did film my Apple CarPlay video, I did use a Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. I was using the 4K settings with the Dolby HDR 10 Plus settings, all of that, and it just didn't really look that good in comparison to when I had the shots with my iPhone. And you'll see some of those shots in this video as well, but the iPhone just kills it in cinematic mode, especially, which you're seeing right now. It's really fantastic. The ability for it to cut out the individual in the shot in live recording is really quite good now. And speaking of these Apple Intelligence and software changes to the camera, let's talk about the photographic styles, which came with a new overhaul in addition to the camera control, where you can change these styles with the camera control. But these new styles, I think, are a lot better. It was not really a feature I used to use ever, but I've been playing around with it a little bit more since this overhaul and the extra customizability that you have with it. And I think that it's much better than it used to be. And I like that you can kind of tone it down in real time to get those perfect shots. And I got some really good photos using these styles, which in some cases looked more realistic than the actual normal standard mode, or the natural mode as they call it, which I think natural mode should be the same thing as standard, don't you think? I mean, let me know. But also like and subscribe. But in any case, these cameras are fantastic. You can now record 4K 120 FPS, and of course you can record to external devices. I'm seeing more and more that there's external storage SSDs that support MagSafe. There's one from Lexar, I'll link it down below, but you can actually just have it connected to your phone. So while you're recording, it's not going anywhere. You don't have to use Velcro like I do sometimes to attach it to your phone or laptop. So that's really cool. But in any case, that's design, that's camera, that's performance. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is Apple Intelligence, supposedly the first iPhones to be built for Apple Intelligence. Well, how has that panned out? Let's talk about it. So, Apple Intelligence, let's talk about it. Well, I have been using iOS 18, 18.1, 18.2. 18.2 is releasing for the public as we speak, but I've been using it in beta. And let me tell you, overall, iOS has not had great battery management this year. This is quite typical of the last few years in terms of iOS releases. When the new iPhone comes out, that it just kind of sucks for the first few months until Christmas. But this year was particularly bad. As we get to Apple Intelligence and things, I do want to touch upon some issues with the software in addition to that, because some of them are connected. But in general, this release has been not that good. Of course, not a lot has changed. We do see some new customizability options, right? With the new iOS, you can change the color tint of your icons, place them where you want. Some other stuff that is not as important as the Apple Intelligence things, but welcome changes such as in the Mail app, having categorization, which I'm happy to see, and the priority notifications for certain emails as well. So in terms of Apple Intelligence features, I touched upon a bit on the camera side ones, but some others on the photo side of things are things like the magic wand. So you can get rid of things in the background of photos. And let me tell you, I actually been using this feature. This is probably the Apple Intelligence feature I use the most because it is actually quite good. I've been using Magic Eraser on Google Photos for a pretty long time, since it's been out for many years now. And let me tell you, even though Google had quite the head start, Apple's is just better. It's quite good. And the ability for it not to kind of mess up the background is really incredible. So on that side of things, when it comes to photos, they've done really well. When we talk about generating photos, that's another story. So that is the Image Playground and Genmoji. Image Playground is now a separate app, but also integrated into others like Notes. But essentially, you can generate images, and you can have images which are of yourself or your contacts. So that is something that is a differentiating factor from a lot of other image generation through AI that Apple is touting as like a more personal Apple Intelligence, a more personal AI. And so that is really showing up here in the Genmoji and the Image Playground sort of things. So you can generate images of people that are actually in your camera roll. Now, it kind of works, kind of doesn't. It's okay. There's not really much you can do in terms of telling it what to generate. They're mostly just like portrait shots, nothing where you might have a person standing in a scene. It's just really this kind of distance, and you can generate them, you know, on a football pitch or in the mountains and such. Very basic things. And you cannot have anything branded like me sitting in a Porsche or something. You can't have that. Or a Mercedes, you know. But so it's okay. That one is all right. But again, the phone gets really hot when using those Apple Intelligence features, especially Image Playground. Other Apple Intelligence features that are nice, the ones I really use are things such as proofreading, making things more concise, really adjusting sentences in emails just to make it sound a little better. But that's really the extent of where it's useful. If I'm doing anything more intense, I'm going to use ChatGPT, which is actually integrated with Apple Intelligence, but in an interesting way. So Apple will try to do as much of the work on device through Apple Intelligence as they can. But if it's really intense, they'll send it to ChatGPT. So if you use the Compose feature in Notes or emails, that will use ChatGPT. Or if you're using proofreading, making it more concise, or get key points in Notes, that's going to be Apple Intelligence. So there's a fine line here and there of when it's using it, but in any case, it does take up a lot of power as well. And it works fine, but really, I still have my action button mapped to ChatGPT because it's simply better for most cases. Now, in terms of summaries for notifications, I find these pretty useful. It's fine, not anything revolutionary. For emails, I do like using the summaries, especially if I have a newsletter with a lot of different news from the market, things like that. I'll just use, even though that's already a summary, I will use the summarize feature again. One feature that I've gotten a lot of use out of is voice recording and making those transcripts and then using those transcripts as a summary or key points. So if I'm in a meeting, I'll record the call and make sure I have a transcript of it. Or a really great feature that I've used is when I'm on a phone call, you can actually record the call. It will tell the other person, but I've noticed nobody really cares. But it'll record the phone call, transcribe it, and put it into an Apple Note, which I love that feature. So that's actually really good. But overall, it's kind of underwhelming. And hopefully we see better things come with the new Siri in probably March, April of next year. So it is a slow rollout process. Siri looks different, but doesn't really function very much in a different way. So that is really the Apple Intelligence stuff. Now let's talk about the competition. So if you've been following my channel, you know that I have recently gotten a Galaxy Z Fold 6, and I have been someone who's used Android in the past for a very long time, had tons of different phones from them, and recently switched over to iPhone, during the pandemic. And I really was thinking about going back, and I took a great look at the competition from things such as the new Pixel 9 Pro and the 9 Pro Fold, and the Galaxy Z Fold 6, the S24 Ultra. I think there's a lot of great options out there, and I really like the cutting edge. The new foldables are extremely intriguing to me, especially the ones that give me more functionality, be able to multitask and really get a lot more done, because nowadays a lot of us are using our phones for work or productivity. And so being able to actually use it like a power user is fantastic. And so that's when I started looking at these foldables more seriously. I really like the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. However, it has the best design out of all of them. It looks great. It's super thin. It's as thin as almost a regular iPhone when it's closed. It's the same size as a 9 Pro, not the XL, so it's a great size as well. But it just doesn't have all those nice software features that make sense in a foldable, which the Samsung does. The Samsung has all the great software features for multitasking, for really taking advantage of that foldable screen. They've had time to really refine the device, and it has pen support. So I went with that, and I love having that pen support. And I'm often reaching for that device way more often than I am for my iPhone. But that's where the dilemma is. iPhones have a great ecosystem. It's truly fantastic if you take advantage of it. I have almost every Apple device. I've showcased all of them on this channel, from the Apple TV to the Vision Pro, the Apple Watch Ultra, and many more. And so I'm really deep into the Apple ecosystem, and it's fantastic when it works, but it's really hard to leave. And so even with all of that, I think the iPhone is really resting on its laurels, and that they don't have to change much because people will find it very difficult to leave. And that could be a larger issue, maybe a monopolistic issue, but if it's benefiting the consumer, I think it's okay. But we're kind of tiptoeing on that line now, where maybe it's not benefiting the consumer as much because they're not innovating as much as they used to. It was okay when they were innovating so much, but now that they're not, it's hard to justify them making it so difficult to leave. But that is the draw, right? And that is why we still buy our iPhones, for the design, for the ecosystem and such. But I think let's get to the verdict. So what is the verdict? Well, I think that if you're using anything older than an iPhone 14, then you probably should upgrade, just because you're going to get a new design. If you're getting just the regular 16, you're going to get better cameras, you're going to get a new battery, which is the reason a lot of people upgrade, because of battery degradation, and you're going to get those Apple Intelligence features. If you're using an iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max, probably you should not upgrade. Like, I'm going to say 90% of you should not upgrade, because you have 90% of the features and you have access to Apple Intelligence, which no other iPhone before will have access to. And the cameras are generally the same. For those using a 14 Pro normal or 15 normal, you could upgrade, but again, 50-50 on that one, because this might be a good time to look into the Android side of things. As I mentioned, that space is looking really good right now. Some great devices coming out, lots of innovation. The foldable devices are really great at this point, so that's definitely something to look at. But I appreciate you always for watching these videos. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment letting me know what your thoughts are, especially if you're using an iPhone 16. Are you experiencing some of the issues that I have experienced with this device, such as not so much overheating, but lots of overheating when using Apple Intelligence, and even some boot loops that have happened when using iOS 18. I will have some updated videos coming out about iOS 18.2, some CarPlay videos, and some nice stuff on other tech devices down the line. So thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.